In 2025 alone, over 20 dairy products from the US were blocked at European borders, not because of a recall, not because of spoilage, but because of what's legally allowed in American milk. From hidden chemicals and banned additives to labor violations and falsified organic claims, the same brands trusted by millions of US seniors are being turned away from European shelves. Why does a milk carton deemed dangerous in France still end up in a Florida nursing home? Are we so used to the smiling cow on the label that we've stopped reading the fine print? When even Germany, home to some of the world's strictest food regulations, refuses to import what we're pouring into school lunches and hospital trays, something's deeply wrong. What if the very milk you trust to protect your bones is slowly eroding your trust instead? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Today, we expose 10 American milk brands banned in Europe, but still trusted in the US. And what they don't want you to know might be hiding in your fridge right now. Number 1. Fairlife. You'd think by now we'd have at least one glass of milk that doesn't come with a side of guilt. Fairlife looked like that answer. It spoke the language of health, low sugar, high protein, lactose-free, and it was dressed for success with shiny packaging and the global weight of Coca-Cola behind it. Older Americans, those trying to eat clean without feeling cheated, welcomed it like a trusted friend at the table. Fairlife wasn't just milk, it was the milk you could believe in, or so we were told. And yet in February of 2025, something happened that should have made headlines across every grocery aisle in America. Europe banned it. Austria, Denmark, Sweden, and Germany pulled Fairlife products off their shelves, invoking Regulation 2017/625, an EU law designed to safeguard animal welfare and food transparency. Why? Because despite years of promises and press releases, Fairlife had yet to prove it cleaned up its act after the animal abuse horror show at Fair Oaks Farms. Europe decided that no amount of shiny branding could whitewash cruelty. Back here in the States, not a word on the label change. In March 2025, the European Food Safety Authority released a blistering update. Fairlife was spotlighted as a symbol of non-compliant American dairy, specifically for lacking third-party verification of animal care and violating sourcing ethics. Even worse, leaked footage revealed calves still confined in isolation pens, sick animals denied pain relief, and euthanasia procedures that flouted ethical farming codes. This isn't ancient history, it's business as usual, just with better lighting and fewer cameras. Meanwhile, a class action lawsuit filed in Illinois in April 2024 continues to simmer. More than 100 Americans are suing Coca-Cola and Fairlife for misleading them into believing they were buying milk from humanely raised cows. The lawsuit claims no live video monitoring was ever installed, and third-party audits? Just a myth. As of July 2025, the case is still unresolved. Yet the ads roll on. Scenes of playful calves frolicking on green pastures air between reruns of Judge Judy and The Price is Right. In Sweden, those same ads have been banned for false portrayal of agricultural practices. But in America, where the elderly turn to daytime TV for comfort, deception still sells by the gallon. It's hard not to feel a chill when you think about it. Europe rejects Fairlife outright, but here it's branded as a premium wellness product, targeting those least able to afford a mistake. When the same milk is banned for cruelty overseas, but marketed as health-forward here, what does that say about how much respect corporations really have for their customers? To be fair, we should pause. Fairlife didn't become the face of modern milk overnight. It rose in a system that rewards image over inspection, slogans over substance. Maybe the pressure to dominate shelf space in a cutthroat industry leaves little room for ethical hesitation. But if profits are tied to pain, where does the line get drawn? If Europe won't even let this milk cross the border, should it really be crossing into our fridges? Number 2, great value. There's always one item in the cart that feels like a win. For most households on a budget, that win is great value milk. It's familiar, it's cheap, and it gets the job done. At least that's what we've been led to believe. Sold under Walmart's in-house label, this milk is the go-to gallon for seniors counting coins and making every last dollar stretch. A promise of quality you can trust on a $3 jug. Sounds like a blessing in a world where trust and price rarely live in the same aisle. But behind that low sticker lies a cost no one talks about until now. In May of 2025, a bulletin from the EU's Rapid Alert System for Food and Feed revealed that several shipments of great value milk were outright rejected at major European ports like Rotterdam and Antwerp. Why? Because the milk exceeded EU's legal limits for coliform bacteria and failed to properly disclose details of ultra-high temperature processing. In plainer terms, too many germs and not enough truth. Europe said, no thanks, and turned the ships around. Meanwhile, in America, that same milk gets poured over breakfast cereal with a smile. A February 2025 report by Consumer Reports added even more sour notes. Among 10 tested brands, Great Value milk came in dead last for shelf stability and bacterial control. Some jugs began spoiling within 4 days, even when stored properly. Walmart blamed regional bottling inconsistencies, but let's be honest, should the safety of your milk depend on whether it came from Des Moines or Dallas? Trace that jug back to its source and things only get murkier. Great Value milk isn't made by one farm or one plant. It's a patchwork quilt of third-party bottlers, mega dairies, and nameless suppliers, many of which would fail Europe's ethical dairy directive at the first checkpoint. The United Kingdom's Food Standards Agency flagged Walmart's dairy imports as non-qualifying for public sale without traceability upgrades back in January. They didn't need a press conference. They just quietly shut the door. But here in the States, that same milk wears a disguise. Labels show happy cows on sunny hills, while the real cows are crammed into feedlots without a single blade of grass. And that nutrient-rich promise? Ultra-pasteurization may stretch the expiration date, but it zaps much of the natural value. You're not drinking vitality, you're drinking convenience with a side of pasteurized marketing. Now, should Walmart carry all the blame? Maybe not entirely. In a profit-driven system that rewards low prices over real transparency, it's no wonder that corners get cut and the cheapest option becomes the most vulnerable. When millions rely on this brand to feed their families, the pressure to deliver volume at any cost can make ethics a casualty. Still, we're left holding the jug. So what now? Consider exploring options like A2 milk, known for gentler digestion and tighter quality control. Horizon Organic offers grass-fed cartons that, while pricier, are popping up more often at discount chains like Aldi. You can even go local. Many family farms now offer weekly delivery to senior communities through co-ops. Or follow the wisdom of the past. Buy shelf-stable organic milk in bulk when it's on sale. It stores well and doesn't gamble with your gut. And the next time you see a jug that costs less than your morning coffee, ask yourself, if Europe won't drink it, why are we being told it's good enough for us? Number 3, Horizon Organic. When you pay nearly $6 for a half gallon of milk, you're not just buying dairy, you're buying peace of mind. Horizon Organic built its brand on that promise. Red cartons, cheerful cows on green hills, and the word organic beaming like a halo from the shelf. It became the milk for those who wanted more than calories. Parents worried about their kids, older folks watching their gut, and people who believed that food should still come from nature, not a lab. But in April of 2025, the red curtain was pulled back, and Europe didn't like what it saw. Shipments of Horizon Organic milk, fortified with DHA algal oil, were denied entry into both Germany and France. The reason? The additive, while technically legal under U.S. organic guidelines, violates the European Union's stricter standards under Regulation EC 889/2008. In other words, Horizon's version of organic includes synthetic ingredients that Europe refuses to recognize as natural. Worse yet, the European Food Safety Authority flagged Horizon for unclear labeling. The cartons claimed organic milk with DHA, but regulators say it hid the fact that the DHA comes from algae grown in steel tanks, then stabilized with additives like ascorbyl palmitate and tocopherols. These are preservatives that may sound harmless, but they're strictly forbidden in EU-certified organic dairy. The milk was marketed to seniors and children, those with the most fragile digestion, as if it were clean, simple, and pure. This isn't a debate about fish oil versus algae. It's about trust. The kind of trust that gets eroded when something synthetic hides behind a word like organic. And this isn't just a European concern. In January 2025, a Vermont-based consumer group filed a USDA complaint against Danone North America, Horizon's parent company, alleging deceptive advertising. The case centers on whether Horizon misled shoppers by not disclosing the industrial origin of its DHA. As of July, the USDA is still investigating. Let's break it down. The omega-3 enriched milk pushed onto American grocery shelves is built from industrial fermentation vats, not pastures. The cows might be real, but the nutrients, not quite the stuff of barnyards and clover fields. It's like calling a vitamin gummy a vegetable because it's shaped like a carrot. Maybe Horizon didn't intend to deceive. Maybe they're just trying to keep up in a market where organic has become a moving target, pulled by marketing teams, not farmers. When you're trying to compete in a hyper-profitable health niche and you've got shareholders breathing down your neck, there's a lot of pressure to make a product look cleaner than it really is. But still, should a label that once stood for purity now mean mostly organic except for the lab stuff? There are honest alternatives. Trickling Springs Creamery in Pennsylvania offers milk that's not just USDA certified, but completely free of synthetic fortification. Strauss Family Creamery goes a step further, aligning with both US and European organic standards. Or if you're leaning dairy-free, flax milk made from real pressed flax seeds gives you omega-3s without the algae and without the ambiguity. It's a strange joke, isn't it? Horizon sold us milk with a heart health halo, but forgot to mention the steel tank in the basement. If Europe sees that as deception, why are we still calling it breakfast? Number 4, Borden Dairy. It's the kind of brand that shows up in memories before it shows up in the fridge. Borden Dairy, with its smiling mascot, Elsie the cow, has been in American kitchens for over 100 years. For older Americans, it's more than just a carton. It's a symbol of childhood mornings, safe choices, and small comforts that never change. And for retirees watching every penny, Borden often means local milk at a lower price than the national giants. It's familiar, it's comforting, and it's quietly dangerous. Because in 2025, that nostalgia curdled. In January, Borden Dairy issued a recall that pulled more than 3.4 million cartons of milk off shelves across Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and 4 other states. Whole milk, 2%, chocolate, all contaminated with Listeria monocytogenes, a bacteria that doesn't play fair with older immune systems. By February, the CDC confirmed 9 hospitalizations, 3 involving seniors. 2 deaths are still under federal investigation, with autopsies confirming Listeria as a contributing factor. But here's the part that really makes your stomach turn. It didn't start with the recall, it started with silence. According to a whistleblower complaint filed with OSHA, employees at the Dallas processing plant saw warning signs months earlier: faulty carton seals, spoiled milk odors, visible residue on filling equipment. These weren't minor concerns. They were flashing red lights. But Borden didn't pull product or warn the public. They waited until someone ended up in a hospital bed. Europe, on the other hand, didn't wait to act. In March, leaked data from the Eurofarm Customs Enforcement System revealed that Spain and Belgium outright denied Borden's request to export shelf-stable milk. Why? Non-compliance with post-pasteurization contamination protocols and missing documentation of bacterial counts. Under EU food hygiene law, that's not a mistake, it's a full-stop no-go. So let's paint the full picture. Workers raise alarms, patients get sick, Europe slams the door shut, but Borden milk is still sitting in fridges from Oklahoma to Georgia. That's not just a policy gap, it's a moral one. Of course, it's easy to point fingers at Borden, but let's be real. When your company is over a century old and trying to stay afloat in a cutthroat industry, you're not just fighting bacteria, you're fighting to survive bankruptcy, private equity cuts, and shrinking margins. Sometimes those pressures make the ignore button look easier than the recall form. It doesn't excuse it, but it explains the silence. Still, if you've made it to retirement, your health has already fought enough battles. Why add one more? There are cleaner options. Natural by Nature, based in Pennsylvania, doesn't just test for bacteria, they document every shipment. Organic Valley Ultra is shelf-stable, EU approved, and handled with aseptic precision. And for those pinching pennies, consider reconstituting powdered milk from brands like Bob's Red Mill. It's cheaper, safer, and you control the water that goes in. Here's something else to remember. Flip your milk jug and check the plant code. If it says TX48 or LA17, those are the plants tied to the recall. Sometimes all it takes to protect yourself is a few seconds and a sharp eye. Because if Europe says, keep it out, and the CDC says, watch out, why are we still pouring it over our cereal? Number 5, Lucerne. It's the kind of brand that doesn't make a scene. Lucerne milk sits quietly in the refrigerator section of Safeway, Albertsons, and Vons. Humble, generic-looking, and priced just right for folks watching every nickel. With slogans like "Quality Dairy since 1904" and packaging that shows idyllic cows under a soft sunrise, it feels like the gentle choice. To seniors stretching Social Security checks, it offers the perfect illusion: dependable, wholesome, and affordable. But in 2025, that warm image is cracking, and what's leaking out is not just milk, but something far stickier. In January, a joint review by the European Food Safety Authority and Germany's consumer watchdog revealed that Lucerne's vanilla-flavored and lactose-free milk had been denied entry into multiple EU ports. The reason? It failed to comply with Regulation 1169/2011 on food labeling and transparency. Specifically, Lucerne didn't disclose just how much sugar was in the product, and more alarmingly, it included the artificial sweetener acesulfame potassium without clear labeling. Now here's where things get murky and dangerous. Acesulfame potassium is a lab-made sweetener linked to potential long-term metabolic disruptions. While it's legal in the US, many European nations ban its use in dairy products, especially those marketed to children and seniors. The concern? Studies suggest it may contribute to insulin resistance, a red flag for anyone dealing with diabetes, weight issues, or heart trouble. But you wouldn't know any of this from the Lucerne carton in your fridge. The label says lightly sweetened, and according to US regulations, that's all it needs to say. So what does lightly actually mean? In March of this year, Clean Milk America commissioned lab tests that revealed Lucerne's lactose-free vanilla milk contains more than 12 grams of sugar per cup. That's a cocktail of natural lactose and added glucose syrup, more sugar than what you'll find in a small glazed donut. And yet it's sitting there in the healthy section of the grocery store. Why hasn't this made headlines? Because Lucerne flies under the radar. It's not owned by a global giant like Nestlé or Coca-Cola, so there's less public scrutiny. But make no mistake, the risk is just as real. If you're managing diabetes or trying to keep your weight and blood pressure in check, those hidden sugars could quietly undo months of careful progress. Now, before throwing stones, it's worth noting that store brands like Lucerne are often caught in a tough squeeze. To keep prices low while still competing with premium products, they take shortcuts that the public rarely sees. In a system where labeling loopholes and profit margins dictate everything, what's left behind is consumer clarity. And seniors, many of whom rely on low-sugar claims to make daily decisions, pay the highest price when that clarity disappears. So what should you reach for instead? Elmhurst 1925 makes clean label, plant-based milk with no added sugar and no funny business, just plain English on the label. Strauss Family Creamery offers grass-fed, lactose-free options that skip the artificial sweeteners altogether. Or go old school, blend a ripe banana with plain almond milk and a dash of vanilla. You'll get sweetness, nutrition, and full control without any secret chemistry. Because at the end of the day, a brand that whispers trusted since 1904 shouldn't make you feel tricked in 2025. And if Europe says it's dishonest, why are we still pouring it into our morning coffee? Number 6. Darigold. To folks in the Pacific Northwest, Darigold feels like home. With its bold red packaging and decades-long reputation, it's the kind of brand you trust without even thinking. Farmer-owned, they say, proudly local. For older Americans trying to buy American and support regional agriculture, Darigold sounds like a win. A dollar saved, a neighbor helped. What could be more wholesome than that? But in 2025, Europe didn't reject Darigold because of what's in the milk. It rejected it because of what's behind it. According to a damning January report from Ethical Trade Europe, Darigold has been blacklisted by several major EU retail groups, including Germany's REWE and Coop Italia. The reason? Not food safety, but labor abuse. Under Europe's new Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, Darigold failed the test, specifically for repeated violations involving migrant dairy workers in Washington state. We're not talking small infractions. We're talking about forced overtime, wage theft, threats of deportation, and retaliation against those who dared speak up. This isn't social media gossip. It's court evidence. A class action lawsuit filed in King County, Washington in March 2024 details how Darigold allegedly allowed subcontracted supervisors to exploit undocumented laborers. 40-plus workers have sworn under oath about brutal conditions, being denied bathroom breaks, docked wages for speaking up, and threatened with ICE if they refused overtime. This isn't the image of a friendly co-op. This sounds more like factory farming for humans. Darigold's defense? Outsourcing. By hiring third-party labor contractors, the company distances itself from the abuse while still benefiting from the cut costs. Investigative reports in 2025 by The Guardian US uncovered internal audits showing that Darigold executives were made aware of these abuses as early as 2022. But rather than clean house, they cleaned up their marketing, posting about sustainability and member pride, while ignoring the workers milking the actual cows. Eventually, Europe had enough. In 2025, the European Dairy Transparency Board publicly advised retailers to avoid Darigold due to labor concerns. That wasn't just a slap on the wrist. It cost Darigold over $15 million in EU contracts in the first quarter alone. It may not be a legal ban, but it might as well be. Meanwhile, in the US, seniors are still pouring this milk into their morning coffee, thinking they're making a good local choice. They have no idea the product was quietly dropped from Europe's shelves for violating basic human rights. That carton with a smiling cow? It's masking a workplace soaked in fear. Of course, the deeper question isn't just about Darigold. It's about what kind of food system allows a company to brag about local values while squeezing the life out of its most vulnerable workers. Maybe Darigold started as a true co-op. Maybe it still wants to be. But when profit pressures collide with a broken labor system, the lines blur fast. And in that blur, real people get hurt. So what now? Try Clover Sonoma, a certified B Corp that publishes its labor policies and pays a living wage. Alexander Family Farm is another option, regenerative, family-run, and EU-compliant with verified ethical sourcing. Because if your milk comes from suffering, no amount of local branding can sweeten the taste. Ask yourself this: if Europe refuses to stock milk tied to labor abuse, why are we still serving it in senior homes, school cafeterias, and on dinner tables across America? Number 7, TruMoo. It's the treat you don't think twice about. TruMoo chocolate milk, sweet, smooth, and sold as the better-flavored milk. It's been a lunchroom icon for decades. You'll find it in school cafeterias, hospital menus, and senior living centers across the country. For older Americans, it feels like a warm hug from childhood in a bottle. No high-fructose corn syrup, a school-approved favorite. Safe enough for kids, so surely safe enough for grandma, right? Not if you ask Europe. In February 2025, Foodwatch EU flagged and rejected shipments of TruMoo chocolate milk at French and Dutch ports. Why? Because the chocolate milk contained artificial colorants and preservatives that don't pass Europe's food safety rules. Specifically, Class 3 caramel coloring and sodium benzoate, both heavily restricted or outright banned under Regulation 1333/2008 in the EU, especially when used in products targeting children or seniors. But that's only scratching the surface. A leaked lab analysis out of Rotterdam revealed a more unsettling twist. The ingredient label submitted for EU import failed to mention a key compound, propylene glycol. This isn't some fancy spice or vitamin. It's a solvent found in antifreeze, used here to stabilize TruMoo's flavor emulsions. In small doses, it's legal in the US, but in the EU, milk-based drinks with propylene glycol are flat-out banned in at least 7 countries. Now ask yourself this: why is something handed to American kids with a straw not even allowed through customs in Europe? And it gets darker. In April of 2024, a petition was filed with the FDA by the Environmental Health Network, highlighting neurological concerns around sodium benzoate exposure, particularly in developing children and aging brains. While the FDA has yet to respond publicly, Belgian officials cited that very petition when rejecting a TruMoo shipment in March 2025. So here we are. A chocolate milk that most Americans would call safe and fun is legally barred from being sold in a dozen European markets. Not because of some one-time contamination scare, but because of what's built into it day after day, carton after carton. Of course, Dean Foods, now under Dairy Farmers of America, hasn't pulled TruMoo off shelves. In the US, they don't have to. The marketing still sells joy and nostalgia, not chemical exposure. And parents and seniors alike trust that if something is sold in schools, it must be fine. But maybe it's time we stop trusting labels that say natural flavors without ever explaining what's really inside. Maybe it's time to ask why grandma's fridge should have milk with ingredients she can't pronounce, let alone understand. Here's the alternative. Chobani oat chocolate milk uses real cocoa and skips synthetic junk. 3 trees. Organic almond milk has just 4 ingredients, no gums, dyes, or science lab stabilizers. Orgo homemade, mix unsweetened cocoa, oat milk, and a touch of raw honey. It's sweet, safe, and doesn't come with a side of solvent. Because if Europe won't even stock this stuff in the children's aisle, why are we pouring it into nursing homes and school trays like it's chocolatey innocence? If this is what's hiding in our milk, what else are we blindly drinking? Subscribe for more truths they don't advertise.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our daily content. Now feel free to check out some of our newest and best videos currently showing on the screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.